Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Karishma Connect. Here I am yet again with another fresh story to share, this time round for May 1st, which is Labor Day. Now, it's special to me for another reason as well, but today we are talking about how the workforce needs to transform itself. What are the kind of things that we need to look out for? What are the things job seekers need to keep in mind? With Samuel Joy, who's the founder of Huntr, which is a blue collar worker marketplace in the Middle East that connects business enterprises with service providers to build a job ready workforce. He talks to me about a wide range of resourcing insights. So go check out the episode if you're looking for a job or if you're looking for blue collar workers. There's a lot of insights in there on how to navigate that space. And until the next one, stay tuned. This is Karishma, and I'll be back yet again. Until then, Tata. Thank you so much, Samuel, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast and can't wait to know more about Huntr without the E, but with way more impact. And I look
Mm.
forward to uncovering that on this episode.
Thank you, Karishma, for having me. I am honored to be on this platform. Yeah, I've heard of Karishma Connect, and it's such a privilege to be here. And thank you for again for your time and for having me over.
Most welcome. To begin with, tell me about your journey so far. That's the first question I ask on the podcast always.
All right. So I would say I would start my story with my previous career working in Transguard, which is a part of Emirates Group. So I was a digital consultant over there, and I specifically worked on building digital transformation projects within the business, as Transguard being one of the largest manpower player. And so a lot of internal technology projects, and especially working with the leadership team, the managing director. Uh, and Transguard is also having 80,000 plus blue collar workers when I was working there. So that's the first time I'm being exposed to how, the blue collar workers react to technologies, especially, but also how they were being recruited. So I had this idea when I was in Emirates and I shared it to the managing director. He wanted, in fact, Emirates to invest, but thankfully, I have this amazing brother-in-law who's started multiple businesses, serial entrepreneur. So he advised me to quit my job. In fact, everybody else were saying otherwise. You have a stable job, don't quit. All of those. So he told me to take that leap of faith, and I did. And he was my first investor as well. He put a small seed investment, started Hunter, and it was not a beautiful journey in the beginning.
Yeah.
So it started with, we started as a two-sided marketplace. We thought, especially connecting blue collar workers with enterprises, right? So let me give you a quick background about the problem which we are solving. So the problem of this is the problem of hiring when it comes to large volume of blue collar workers. Companies like Transguard, companies like multinational companies, manpower companies, they hire in big numbers, big volumes, two, 300 people typically in one shot as batches. They will hire. We have clients who hire 1,000 plus in one shot as well. So those type of recruitment, you have companies like Indeed and Monster and Naukri, which focus on one-off jobs. And for the large format workforce, the solution usually is a recruitment agency, right? And so they are the middlemen and they're basically the brokers. But it's a completely inefficient system. There are many layers of brokers in the process, each of them also taking a cut from the candidate. Candidate end up paying upfront a lot of cost. Apart from that, there's a lot of inefficiencies in sharing documents and applying for visas, delaying in terms of bringing all these people on into UAE, and so a huge amount of so many moving pieces and a huge, largely inefficient process. And so that's what we are solving. And so we, in fact, started as a two-sided marketplace. It didn't really work out. And then I left all of that. I thought, let me do this manually. So
Mm.
I used to get calls from people where from my contacts where they would say there are people from Nepal, people from India who are stuck at the airport without having a job. They came with a fake offer letter. Can you help them out? So I would go to the airport with my car, pick them up probably at 4 in the morning. drive to Dubai, have some food, like give them food as well, and then I would call up my friends in recruitment and be like, I have people with me. Can we find job? Do you guys have jobs? Because working in Emirates, I have my network of HR people, and they would be like, okay, come. There's a walk-in interview, and you come there, and I would be standing out in the sun with them, make sure like that most of them get selected, and what I did at that point in time was I mapped out that entire process, and we created a solution right now, which is a three-sided marketplace, and that's the solution Hunter. I would go into detail, but I would
Please
probably
do.
end there and wait for your next question.
No,
Oh, you want
please
me
do.
to expand into it?
Please do.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so I realized it was a two-sided marketplace would not really work out, especially this region which is the Middle East region, and UAE especially, half of the population, in fact the exact number, 52% of the population are blue collar workers. And
Mm.
if it's GCC, that's about overall between Saudi, UAE, Oman, and Kuwait and Bahrain. And Qatar. That's about 40% across. 40% of the population are blue collar workers, right? And so there's a very high amount of people which are being recruited to the region compared to the US or Europe or any other parts of the world. And UAE or the Middle East, especially Dubai being strategically located in the center, have access into Asia and Africa, right? So typically, it's countries which have surplus, low capital, so high high workforce would be able to send their people out into high capital country, developed countries, but with low amount of workforce. And as I said again, because there's a large amount of workforce which are coming in to manage that entire process, we had to create a third piece into the marketplace, which is the third side of the marketplace, which are called service providers. So we
Okay.
have the enterprise on one side, which is the first marketplace side, which is the demand. We have candidates on the other side, and then we have service providers. So service providers are nonprofits, training organizations, government, and also agencies, but these are vetted agencies. And I would say they are basically caretakers of the people who are migrating into the country, so they would take care of all the administrative functions of ensuring that they have the passports, their medicals done. Because if it's a two-sided marketplace, you have to depend on the blue collar worker to upload all the documents. And when it's a batch hiring, um, it people tend to miss out, and that causes a lot of problem when it comes to deployment, especially, right? So that's why the third piece is a very important piece, and we empower them with technology to make that entire process efficient. So that's not marketplace. Then we also have a documentation, which is a fast which takes care of the entire documentation. And then the third piece is because all the data flows into the app, we are able to simulate demand and create a supply forecast into different countries. Let's say 1,000 people shortlisted in India, 500 people in Nepal, around 2,000 people in Sri Lanka, so on and so forth. So we're able to simulate and use predictive analysis to create those pipelines into those different countries and able to forecast what those timelines look like, what those numbers look like in terms of bringing people from these countries into the UAE. So that's our third tool, which is reporting forecasting, but also predictive analysis. And so that's that. I would say these three solutions right now covers Hunter.
That's a wonderful ecosystem to come up with. Tell me, what have you understood about what companies are looking for today, having interacted with so many?
So especially post COVID, I have seen a transition from when we're talking about blue collar workers, I've seen a transition from unskilled to skilled.
Mm.
This has accelerated, especially after COVID. There's generally a shortage of skilled workforce all across, especially in developed countries. There's a massive shortage. And I guess also because the geopolitical macroeconomic factors are leading to this shortages. One of the example is China. A lot of the countries are not working with China anymore when it comes to manufacturing. And so countries are looking for alternative solutions. And right now, Abu Dhabi has invested about $120 billion into
Mm.
their manufacturing sector, which has created so many skilled job opportunities. In fact, we're seeing a lot of them right now. And
Yeah.
even our existing clients who are not into the skill category are starting to ask for skilled workforce. So there is a transition from the unskilled workforce to a skilled workforce. We are also seeing people who are working with us want to have that differentiator as well, having a skilled workforce with their clients or with whoever they serve. They want to have a differentiator, which is being differentiated by workforce who have particular skill sets, and obviously quality as well. But this is a trend which I recently noticed and which has accelerated, especially after COVID, but also factors such as Chinese or manufacturing or moving away from China with when it comes to manufacturing. So yeah,
And there's also been so much of training material that has also led to a demand for training, right? And open doors for it. But there's so many training materials online that are there today. And at the
mm,
same time, you have training providers working with you. Why do you think it is still important in today's times to actually look at beyond just online training platforms and then leverage these other more regulated training modules that are available?
yeah. So training. Let me start by by providing importance of training. Training is extremely important because you have a lot of the unskilled workforce and a whole pool of them, and then you have all these skilled jobs, but there's a mismatch, right? And training is that piece which brings the people or skill the people to a level of skill, and then we can match them with those jobs. So yes, training plays a big role, and currently we work with training organizations who do have centers, who do have a space, who have a curriculum. We work with our clients to get their curriculum, and we create a customized curriculum for that client, and we pass it on to the training providers, and they provide training in their centers when the workforce come in. And so that's again that third piece, service providers, is very important because they're the ones who are having a face-to-face interview with the people. Does make a difference. That face-to-face interview, understanding the type of personality, where they come from, which village they come from, the language which they speak. Those are all important factors when it comes to the training. We've tried out online training, and we create a platform as well for it. But I do still do believe maybe later on in the future we will go into that stage where we use that. But at this moment, we feel that that training piece, that in-person one-on-one, is a very important factor when it comes to upskilling.
So long back when the pandemic was on, it was all about people lost jobs, people were struggling to find jobs. There was a lot of remote. There was the advent of remote working and all of that took over. And back then, I remember I interviewed a resourcing specialist who told me that there was a lot about staying relevant in the market. There's a lot that you had to do to kind of stay relevant. What do you think is the scene today? Is it as important to stay relevant? How has that evolved according to you? And what are the kind of tips that you can share for job seekers who are in the market looking for that ideal job to keep in mind through that journey?
Okay, probably I'll switch gears a bit and move into the white collar because I feel that that question is more for the white collar sector, right? Yeah, you're right. Especially during COVID, being relevant is key in terms of getting a job because people were laying off workforce at that point in time, and so now it's pre post COVID and things have opened up. I would say I have seen back in the days people were recruited based on experiences, based on the experience. It's a very experience oriented market, UE. Even today, to some extent, it is experience oriented. But I'm seeing a shift or a change in COVID after COVID, where the market is moving towards skill. One is skill and skill oriented, and more shocking, and shocking in a good way or a pleasant surprise, would be the culture. They are focusing a lot on culture. They are intentional about what their culture looks like in the organization, and
Yes.
they want to have people who are culturally the right fit for the organization. So we are moving away from hard skills and focusing more on both the hard skills and soft skills. So yeah, so I mean, dealing with different people, the emotional intelligence, all of those plays a very key role nowadays. I feel for the job market, and so investing in that, and I tell prospective candidates as well that you have to stand out when it comes to your CV and your resume and your cover letter and all of those, right? I quote this where recruiters have 4 seconds to judge you based on what you've written. And I still see people in the market writing 2 to 3 pages of CVs and so many stories. But just one page with all the relevant, just the skills and experience which you have, that's enough. You don't have to write everything that you did in the companies which you work for, just those experience. It's even better to even also include a video, a 1 minute video, just presenting yourself, giving a glimpse into what your personality looks like, right? So they can assess that whether this person is culturally the right person for the organization. So when somebody gives that, they have an edge over somebody who don't provide a video where they have to imagine what that personality looks like by seeing the CV, whereas you're getting a video and that's less work for the recruiter.
But do you think that's also kind of giving too much information to the recruiters in today's times, where sometimes at least from what I know from the people I've spoken to, sometimes the CV doesn't end up getting through that platform that they say, I'm forgetting the name, but there is a platform that kind of reads your CV online, right? And with now
Hmm.
AI coming in the picture and everything, AI CVs coming in the picture as well, do you feel like we're at the risk of too much to consume? Back in the day, it was way more simpler to find a job. You would send that standard CV format. But now, do you think people are grappling with the idea of what exactly is the CV that actually works then?
Hmm. Um, yeah, it's a good question. Uh, I still do think that a simple CV is good, and especially as time has moved even more forward, people have lesser and lesser time as we keep moving forward. Um, and so keeping it as simple as much, and but also make sure it is crisp, right? You should not lose out on key details. So what I mean by is like don't write sentences and sentences. Just have one point which kind of covers all of those, right? So you'll have to work as a candidate. You'll have to work on your CV a lot more, where you have to spend probably weeks into condensing all that information down to one simple page. And as I said, a video, I would say, as I mentioned before, it should be a glimpse. So it should not be, hey, here's me with there's an open book and I share everything, right? That, if you share everything, it does, people are like not interested in knowing anymore, right? But it's more of a hook where you give a glimpse and they find, oh, this person is interesting. I want to know more about this person. So let me call him for an interview, call her for an interview, and then find out, right? And so I'm talking about that hook, and a video would create a good hook. You don't have to actually do it for a 1 minute. The 1 minute is pretty long. You can even cut it short to like 30 seconds. It's more of a what do you call it, elevator pitch for the interview.
And what do you think companies need to change in this scenario about the way that they're hiring currently? Is there something you think to begin with? Do you think there's something that companies need to reconsider about the entire hiring process that they have?
Yeah. I mean, there's work on both sides. And from an enterprise perspective, I'm glad that they are moving away from just the hardcore skills to soft skills as well. Because, somebody can be very experienced, but if that person comes into the organization, half of the team leaves, I mean, what's the point, right? Or he have to be fired, right? He or she has to be fired. What's the point, right? So one, yeah. culture, focusing on culture, very important. The second piece I would say where companies should probably look at improving is looking at the long-term picture, because a lot of the hiring which are done are on short-term, matching the job, okay, team management, all of those pieces. But does this person have the or can be groomed into a leadership position? Can this person work on an overall long term? And may sometimes that person may not have an exact, at the end of the interview are looking pattern matching. They're looking at specific things, right? Sometimes that person might fall short of, let's say, an experience, right? But the person has all the right mindset to get to a particular position of leadership in order, and it will be an accelerator. You know that that person can grow pretty fast, and so the recruiter is ending up with a decision whether I should take a risk of recruiting the person. I'd say you should, because the savings of what the company makes from a long term, the productivity level, and also in terms of the entire team, the how they grow, all of those factors are just gonna skyrocket, right? So yes, I think companies, enterprises need to look at their process in terms of how, the pattern recognition, stop and ask if, okay, this person has the right mindset. Should I take the risk? And I think you should take that risk.
Yeah, take the chance. I think that's
Yeah.
something that's kind of lacking in today's enterprise system for sure. You're also a specialist in fundraising, and you've done that successfully, is what I gather. Tell me some of the challenges and opportunities that you can share with the listeners and how you have navigated them in the past.
Yes. So I'm a first-time founder, so I
Mm.
don't have privileges of a serial entrepreneur. A serial entrepreneur, especially, would be easy for him or for her. It would be so much more easier to raise capital because they have done the whole process before. They know exactly what to do. They have the contacts, the network. So let me probably give you the different elements which is involved in a successful fundraising.
Yeah.
So one is a deep knowledge of your
Mm.
space is very important. A deep understanding, a deep knowledge in that space. It can be because you have already worked. Like for me, I worked in Emirates and I saw that problem and I worked on it, and uh, I have knowledge in that space, and that's why I left, and I believe I have a different vision of how this can be done, this process can be done, and how it would impact many people's lives. Uh, and so that understanding of the problem is very important. If you are not in that space, then get into that space. Go work in a company in that space, or learn more about that space. Whatever you can do, learn about that space, right? So the industry knowledge, domain expertise is very important, because investors are looking at, especially early stage investment, they're looking at the team, because everything else can change. Your company can change. You can pivot your entire idea. Your product can change. Your financial business model can change. Tomorrow, another code can happen, and the whole thing changes, right? So, does the founder have a particular mindset? Does he have the understanding of the market, or the product, or the problem which he's trying to solve? Another one, resilience. I got a lot of news when I was fundraising. I got a lot of no's, and the general notion in fundraising is that you have to meet with 100 people to get that one yes. That means 99 people are going to reject you, and so very important. You cannot be bogged down by the news, and you have to, okay, fine. What is the learning in that? What did I do right, and what did I do wrong? Move ahead, move forward. Don't be too emotional and get caught up with, like, there's some issue with me, and that's why I'm not able to fundraise. A lot of the time, it's actually pattern matching, and for that investor, the founder is not the right fit. And so a lot of the time it's because of that. And so you just have to realize that and move on to the next piece. And then that leads me to the probably the third element, which I would say is network. Network is really important,
Yeah.
especially for first time founder to build that network. And so for me, that network was from accelerators. So I was able to join two accelerators. One is Praxis and the other one is Techstars. Techstars is a pretty well-known network. It's one of the best accelerators in the world. Two of them
Okay.
probably the most famous one, which is Y Combinator and Techstars. And Techstars gave me an extensive list of mentors who gave me advices and who also connected me with others, been really helpful. So if you're a first time founder, I would definitely recommend getting into an accelerator for that network, especially if you don't have that network, that getting in an accelerator helps in that network. And then I would say traction, again, really important because for me, I thought like going into the market with an idea, would help me fundraise, but that's probably not true. And it depends on ecosystem to ecosystem, but I would say in this particular ecosystem, that is not true. You need to have traction. You need to have a product.
Absolutely.
You need to have, and typically you need to have a lot of the traction over here, especially in the region, focuses on revenue. And so if you have revenue and if you can see, even if it's a small number, but you can show that revenue is increasing month on month, and you have a thesis behind it on why it's increasing, if it's not, why it's not increasing, and you optimize it so that it increases. But you're working out on different channels, and you know that some channels here and there are not working, but here's a channel which are working, and you know that you want to go into that channel, focus on that channel, right? So you have some sort of, a rationale behind what is working, what is not working, what are the channels which work, what people do I need to hire to get to that particular stage. So traction, again, very important.
Thank you so much, Samuel. Some really interesting insights in there. My last question to you before I wrap up is, what are the kind of reforms you look forward to seeing in the market in the years to come for blue collar workers, and how can resourcing kind of help drive that change?
Yeah. So from an enterprise level, I would say focus on one of the aspect is focus on the attrition rates as a overall long term, right? Don't look at the short term. Um, Especially if there is a very high attrition rate, and in the blue collar industry in UAE especially, there is a very high attrition rate. And so there are a couple of factors to why the attrition rates are high compared to other markets. And a lot of the reason why it's high is because one is because of not matching the right people with the right job. That I would say that has to do with the recruitment agency who is in the middle, who is matching those people. The second piece is again, the recruitment agency is a factor to it as well, where the wrong briefing is given to the candidate, and they
Yeah.
come into the country with a different expectation of Dubai being a glitz and glamour. But it's
Mm,
not. A lot of the jobs are not glitz and glamour at the end of the day. But if the people would want to earn a little bit more and
mm,
they want to send money back home, if that is the mindset, yes, Dubai is a great place to come, and because there's no tax and you're saving that money, you're able to send that money. So looking into that attrition, if there's a very high attrition rate, what is the reason for that attrition rate? And reducing that attrition rate rather than focusing on those short-term gains, I
mm.
would say is a mindset which I would really push enterprises into, very important from my side, and also for them to focus on investing in the people, because people is at the end of the day the one who build your business, and for manpower companies, people are their business. But even if it's a non-manpower business, if it's like if it's in any other business, but you have blue collar workers, at the end of the day, they are your people who are building your product, you're selling your product, who are out there, in the world. So if you invest on your people, it would eventually come back to you. From a macro or a zoomed out perspective, it will come back to you. So I think that enterprises are looking at things in a very short, in from a short perspective, short-minded perspective, and they're really looking at this much. But from a macro perspective, there's so much of benefits which company can benefit if they focus on the macro elements and if they focus on the people, especially.
Thank you so much, Samuel, for joining me once again. Some interesting insights there that I look forward to sharing with the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Karishma. Thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure.